The Hargrove family, Adam, Natalie, and their 7-year-old daughter Elisum, moved into a weathered Victorian house in the quiet town of Millbrook. The house stood tall and silent at the edge of the forest, with creaky floors, dusty windows, and an attic that hadn't been opened in decades. Elisa immediately felt something strange about the house. While her parents unpacked boxers, she wandered upstairs and found the attic door slightly ajar. The attic smelled of old wood and forgotten time. Cobwebs danced in the sunlight, slicing through broken panes. That night, Eliza told her mom, "A lady whispered to me from the attic." Natalie laughed. It off. Eliza had an active imagination. But when Eliza began drawing vivid sketches of a sad woman with hollow eyes and a red scarf repeating the same face over and over, Natalie grew uneasy. The drawings looked too mature, too detailed for a child her age, and they seemed to be getting darker each day. Then came the chilling detail. Eliza drew the woman buried under floorboards, and wrote a name under it, Margaret. Natalie stared at the paper, heart racing. They didn't know it yet, but Eliza had just opened the door to a buried secret. Natalie stared at the name. Margaret scrawled under Eliza's latest drawing. "Where did you hear that name, sweetie?" she asked gently. Eliza shrugged, fiddling with her crayons. "The lady said it. She's lonely. She wants me to help her." Her voice was innocent, but her words chilled Natalie to the bone. That night, Natalie shared her concern with Adam, who brushed it off. "She's just adjusting. Kids say weird stuff." But Natalie wasn't convinced. Eliza had never talked to imaginary friends before, and these drawings weren't like her usual doodles. The faces were haunted, the eyes pleading, curious, and uneasy. Natalie searched the attic the next morning. In a far corner beneath a pile of moth-eaten linens, she found a small rusted tin box. Inside were yellowed photographs, brittle letters, and one item that made her gasp, a faded journal with the name Margaret Holloway, etched in cursive on the cover. She flipped through its pages, filled with entries from 30 years ago. One final entry stood out, scribbled in panic, the ink smudged with what looked like tears. "He's watching me. I know what he did. If I disappear, he's the reason." Natalie's hands trembled. Eliza wasn't imagining anything. Natalie couldn't sleep that night. Margaret's final words echoed in her mind. "If I disappear, he's the reason." Who was he? And why hadn't anyone ever found this journal before? The next morning, Eliza handed Natalie another drawing, this time of the attic. With floorboards lifted and a skeleton beneath, Natalie gasped. "Did someone show you this?" Eliza shook her head. "No, the lady told me. She cries a lot. She says she's still here." Natalie called the local library and asked about Margaret Holloway. The name triggered a long silence from the librarian, then a cautious reply. "That name's not often mentioned. She used to live in that house. Went missing in 1995. Case was never solved." Natalie's heart pounded. She and Adam had bought the house from an estate auction, never informed of its past. Later that evening, while Adam was away, Natalie went back into the attic. She tapped the floorboards near where Lisa's drawing had shown something hidden. One plank creaked hollow. She pried it up and gasped. Inside was a small locket, and beneath it, something wrapped in old cloth. Not a skeleton, a blood-stained scarf. The same red scarf from Eliza's drawings. Natalie clutched the blood-stained red scarf, heart pounding. It was real, tangible. The same scarf Eliza had drawn again and again. She placed it in a Ziploc bag, unsure what to do next. A voice inside whispered, "This is evidence." She returned to the journal and began scanning more entries. Margaret had written about a man named G, someone she'd grown afraid of. One chilling passage stood out. "G knows I found the bones near the back garden. He said I'll join them if I speak." Natalie snapped a photo of the page and called Detective Claire Monroe, a local investigator she vaguely knew from a town meeting. "This is going to sound insane," Natalie warned, "but I think I found something tied to a cold case." Within hours, Claire arrived, skeptical but open-minded. She examined the scarf and journal carefully. Margaret Holloway's disappearance was ruled inconclusive. No body, no suspect. But she vanished overnight. Her boyfriend Greg Talbot was questioned but released. This, changes things. Natalie hesitated before showing Eliza's drawings. Claire studied them. "A child drew these." Natalie nodded. Claire looked disturbed. "Either your daughter's psychic, or she's the only witness Margaret has left." Detective Claire took the journal and scarf as evidence and promised to reopen Margaret's case, but something about the line "I found the bones near the back garden" haunted Natalie. That night, she couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., she woke to creaking noises, thinking it was Eliza. She tiptoed down the hallway but found her daughter standing in the backyard barefoot, staring at the ground. "Eliza," Natalie called softly. "She's under here," Eliza whispered. "The lady said he buried something near the roses." Natalie quickly brought her inside, heart racing. The next morning she called Claire and told her everything. By noon, police were at the house with ground-penetrating radar and dogs. The backyard buzzed with quiet urgency. After hours of scanning and digging, an officer uncovered something wrapped in a tattered quilt. The area was immediately sealed. Claire approached Natalie. "We found skeletal remains. They're female. The quilt matches one seen in Margaret's old photos." Natalie stood frozen. Eliza watched from the window silently. Inside, Eliza picked up her crayon and began a new drawing. A man with dark hair standing behind Margaret, holding a shovel. Beneath it she wrote, "Greg won't let her go." Detective Claire sat in the Hargroves' living room, the weight of the case visible in her eyes. "We've sent the remains for forensic testing, but everything points to Margaret. That quilt. Her family confirmed it belonged to her." Natalie looked pale. "Do you think Greg Talbot did it?" Claire sighed. "He was always our only suspect, but with no body, we had nothing. He claimed she ran off, disappeared during an argument. He moved away 2 years later." That night, Natalie tucked Elisa into bed and tried to keep things normal, but Elisa looked worried. "Mommy, he knows I told who, sweetheart? The man who hurt her. He was in my room last night." Natalie froze. "You had a dream." Eliza shook her head. "He stood in the corner. He didn't talk, just watched." Natalie's blood ran cold. That night, she double-locked all the doors, but she couldn't sleep. Around 2:15 a.m., the baby monitor in Eliza's room crackled with static, then picked up soft creaking sounds. Natalie rushed to the room. Eliza was asleep. The window was open, and on her desk a drawing she hadn't made before. A man with dark eyes, watching, smiling. Below it, one word was written, Greg. Detective Claire wasted no time. After seeing Eliza's latest drawing, she dug into Greg Talbot's whereabouts. He now lived in a nearby county just 40 minutes away. Retired, unmarried, no children. When Claire paid him a visit, Greg was calm. "To come? I've told your department everything," he said. "Margaret left. She wasn't well." Claire pushed. "She's been found, buried on the Hargroves property." Greg blinked, then smirked slightly. 30 years too late, detective. That night, Natalie installed extra locks and motion lights around the house. Adam finally began to believe something was seriously wrong. Eliza had drawn another chilling image, a tall figure dragging Margaret toward a dark hole. Then, at 3:08 a.m., the motion lights blinked on. Natalie looked at the monitor. A tall man stood at the edge of their backyard. By the time police arrived, he was gone, but a small toy belonging to Eliza was found crushed near the fence. Claire warned him, "If Greg feels cornered, he might try something desperate." Natalie and Adam decided they'd leave town until the case resolved, but as they packed, Eliza handed her mother one final drawing. It showed their family in a car, flames surrounding it. "He won't let us leave," she said. Natalie stared at the drawing, flames consuming their family car. It was too specific to ignore. "We're not leaving," she told Adam firmly. "If Greg wants us scared, he's winning. We need protection, not escape." Detective Claire agreed. She arranged for a squad car to monitor the street. Inside the house, officers set up surveillance. Eliza, meanwhile, became quiet. She stopped drawing, stopped speaking, just stared at the attic door, which now remained bolted shut. Not whispering anymore, Elisa finally said one night, "She's waiting." "For what?" Natalie asked softly. "For him." Claire decided it was time to confront Greg again, this time with a plan. She set up a ruse. Eliza would stay in the house alone while the parents were supposedly away for the night. Hidden cameras and officers would be stationed throughout the house. Midnight came. 1:12 a.m. a shadow moved at the side gate. 1:34 a.m. a figure crept through the backyard. At 1:41 a.m. the basement window slid open, and Greg Talbot, but unmistakable, slipped inside with a flashlight and gloves. He made his way upstairs slowly, heading straight for the attic. Claire whispered into her radio, "Hold until he opens the door." Greg's footsteps echoed softly on the wooden stairs. He reached the attic door and paused. Breathing heavily, he touched the lock almost reverently, before pulling out a small crowbar. With a sharp crack, he pried the latch loose. From the surveillance van, Detective Claire tensed. Officers moved silently into position. Inside the house, Greg opened the attic door slowly, scanning the dark space with his flashlight. Dust floated in the beam as he stepped inside. He whispered, "I told you to stay quiet, Maggie." His voice cracked with a strange blend of anger and regret. "You ruined everything. Even now, you won't let go." Suddenly, the attic lights, blazed on. Red and blue strobes flashed outside the windows. "Police, hands up. Don't move." Greg froze, blinded. But instead of panicking, he just smiled. "She never stopped whispering," he said quietly. "Not in 30 years. Greg was tackled and cuffed on the spot. Downstairs, Natalie hugged Eliza tightly as officers cleared the house. Outside, Claire stared at the attic window. "He came back for her," she said, shaking her head, like she never let him go. Inside the attic, the red scarf still hung. From a nail fluttering in the breeze, Greg Talbot was charged with the murder of Margaret Holloway. DNA from the bones matched the scarf, and Margaret's journal was admitted as critical evidence. Under interrogation, Greg finally broke. "You found the bones I buried first," he said flatly. "I had no choice. Margaret always knew too much." The town of Millbrook buzzed with the news. After 30 years, justice had finally found its way back. As for Eliza, she changed. The nightmare stopped. She smiled again, picked flowers, played in the backyard. But she never returned to the attic. 1 week later, Natalie walked past Eliza's room and noticed a new drawing on the floor. It showed Margaret, this time smiling, standing in sunlight with no shadows behind her. Below it, Eliza had written, "She's not lonely anymore." Natalie teared up, clutching the drawing to her chest. She understood. Margaret was at peace. The whispers were gone. Before they moved out, Natalie climbed the attic stairs one last time. It was quiet, now completely still. No voices, no chill, just silence. She left the red scarf hanging there, a symbol of truth finally uncovered, and as she walked away, a soft breeze blew through the house, but no one whispered anymore.